Hey MVPs, Rico Knows here. Want to talk to you guys about the win totals for Purdue next season. You guys see it here. The sports book says 4.5 wins. Simple enough. 4.5 wins in the regular season for Purdue, the Boilermakers. Let's see what they did last year. So last year, they finished with only 4 wins, and that was in the regular season. So now they're saying 4.5 is the over-under. Are they going to be the same as last year? Or are they going to be better? That's the question. Let's talk about it. New head coach Ryan Walters came in last year, did his best to scramble, signed Hudson Card, his starting quarterback, out of Texas, did best he could to address some of the needs on the offense and defensive side of the ball, and they showed up to the season not ready to play. They go out there and they lose to Fresno State. If you don't remember this game, Mikey Keene went on the scene and did the damn thing and made them look silly, but they were competitive in a loss. Then beat Virginia Tech the following week. Oh, my goodness. The fact they beat Virginia Tech is so impressive. Virginia Tech eventually started playing great. They returned everybody. But don't you ever forget that they beat Virginia Tech when they weren't starting Kyron Drones. At this point, they were starting a number of other people, not Kyron Drones, okay? Syracuse, losing. That's just bad. That's just bad. Wisconsin, losing. Once again, score some points in the loss, but you're giving up way too many. 35, 38, right? Blowing out Illinois. Yikes, Illinois is terrible. At Iowa, losing, but it wasn't terrible. 20-14. You can't lose that bad to Iowa. They can't score anyways. Ohio State, blocks blown out. 2 weeks to prepare for Nebraska. Did not matter. Then losing to Michigan. Beating Minnesota, which is insane. The offensive explosion was nuts, and Minnesota defense is great, but they put up 49. That was the height of their season there. Losing to Northwestern, and then beating Indiana in another shootout. And what I see here is offensive output in 2 out of the last 3 games. Maybe they were hitting their strides. I don't know. I watch the games. I'm aware of what I see. But let's keep going. Let's talk about these guys. Number 1, Hudson Card's coming back. Hudson Card is the starting quarterback. He played well. Only 2,300 yards passing. Not a great completion percentage, 58%, but not a ton of interceptions. 2-to-1 on the ratio. It's not terrible. He's a very athletic, poor man's John Rice Plumlee, right? He can run around, extend the play. He's a baseball player type athlete, but he's good. He's a good football player. He can do his thing. Don't worry about the backup quarterbacks. Bennett Meredith transferred in from Arizona State, by the way. Devin Mockabee. This is a young man that became the starting running back last year or 2 years ago as a true freshman, rushed for 900 yards. This season, only 800, and that's because they discovered Tyron Tracy can play. Tyron Tracy was just drafted in the NFL draft this weekend. He's a good player, and he's gone. Okay, so that's how that goes. For everybody else, nobody else we're talking about. The lion's share of the carries were up here. We won't even discuss Dylan Downing. I don't think he's going to be leaned upon by any means, right? Receivers. Deion Burks is NFL caliber. Deion Burks is great. He transferred to Oklahoma, so left them bare. TJ Sheffield, another quality receiver, has always been the team's second leading receiver for the last 3 years. Initially was going to transfer to Michigan State. I said that in an earlier video. Not happening. He flipped, and I think he's at UConn now, which is pretty impressive that UConn went out and found a receiver. Yassine doesn't matter. Miller and Claire don't really matter. Jaden Dixonville is returning back, but only 16 receptions. Tracy went to the NFL, not a big deal. And nobody really moves me here. I went back and watched Tibbs' tape. Tibbs is a freshman from Independence High School in Indiana. And the reason I did that is because he has a transfer. There is a transfer coming in. They're high school teammates. So that one stuck out to me. Andrew Sawinski tore it up for a long touchdown in the spring game. And it looks like he and Hudson Card have continuity, so that's pretty cool. I'll talk about some other receivers when we look at the depth chart. I'll talk about kickers when we get there. I'll just say they weren't very good at kicks, field goals, 6 out of 11. 6 and 11. That's 54% on field goals. The other kid is 2 for 6. They are trash at field goals. Trash at field goals. They're a liability. Okay? Defensively, I made videos on Dylan Thieneman before the season started. I told you guys this is the best true freshman defensive back. Both of his brothers were walk-ons and became team captains. Walk-ons became team captains, became leading tacklers, the whole nine. And I said Dylan Thieneman is better than his brothers. He was only a 3-star. Freshman All-American, 6 interceptions, led the team in tackles. That is an NFL player. I know when I see him on tape, I go, holy shit, that guy's great. Shout out to Dylan. Yes, he's white. Yes, he plays safety. I don't care. You get over 100 tackles your true freshman year, paired up with 6 interceptions, the world better be listening. His PFF score is off the charts. Gotta be. Everything he does is great. Love that man, and he'll be coming back. So will Kendron Jenkins, complete stud, 7.5 sacks. On any other team, 7.5 sacks is worth talking about. But unfortunately for him, he plays with Nick Scorton, who had 10 sacks. Now, he just transferred to A&M. All the recruiting websites will tell you he was the best defensive end in the portal, blah, blah, blah. Yes, he had 10 sacks. It's not the best defensive end in the portal. Trey Moore had 14. But if we're not going to go off just production alone, if we're looking at talent, Jenkins can play some football. Jenkins is very good. They're not going to be missing much on the defensive line. I promise. We'll get over the rest of the guys here. Marcavius Brown coming over, defensive back, transfer from Ole Miss. Played really well. What you need to know about the Ole Miss players transferring to Purdue is they are following their cornerbacks coach. So they have a cornerbacks coach who used to be at Ole Miss. He's now the cornerback secondary coach at Purdue. So if you see a lot of Ole Miss guys or former Ole Miss guys, it's because of him. So shout out to him. Clyde Washington hit the portal. Not a big deal. I'm going to keep looking. Jeffrey Emba here, defensive line. He will start this year. This was the number 1 JUCO defensive lineman coming out 2 years ago. He went to Auburn initially, couldn't see the field, then transferred to Purdue. Contributed last year. Not a bona fide starter. He is now a bona fide starter. Joe Anderson can play football. He will start. Will Helt is a talented player that nobody talks about. Only 12 tackles last year. I watched the tape, guys. Will Helt will be one of this team's leaders. Will Helt will be a starter all season long. Will Helt will be, dare I say, all conference honorable mention. Like, he's that guy, man. When I watch tape, I know what I'm saying. The coaches better figure it the F out. But Will Helt will be the guy starting. He will be the future star at Purdue at linebacker. He's the reason a linebacker like Clyde Washington is transferring. He's one of the reasons, I should say. I shouldn't say the singular reason. But it's because Will Helt looks the part, especially when you watch tape. I'm going to keep looking down here, see if I see anybody else's name that sticks out to me. I think Dominic Moon already hit the portal and left. Yeah, okay. Now let's go look. Depth chart. I'll be talking about the depth chart. Let me go to the transfer portal first, and I'll do the depth chart. So, Kellen Crimm's coming in as a punter, averages over 40 yards a punt, was the Australian rules punter for Mississippi State. He's a starting punter, and he's 6'3", 200 pounds. That's a really good punter. Obviously, they've addressed their special teams. Went and got R.J. Lopez. Now, Lopez didn't kick field goals at UCLA, not that I know of. I thought he was just a kickoff guy. And he led the conference in touchbacks 3 years in a row. Strong leg. 3 years in a row led him in touchbacks. Amazing stuff. Kendrick Breedlove transferring in from Colorado. This is a former Ole Miss kid. I don't think Breedlove's any good. I've watched the tape 100 times over. Breedlove is a liability on defense, and what's scary is he knows the defense so well, knows the terminology and the coaches so well, that he was starting at the spring game. He's starting for this team. That kind of tells me the talent level of certain players on this team. In certain position groups, Kendrick Breedlove is not very good. Congratulations, he started. C.J. Smith, wide receiver, former wide receiver at Georgia. Left Georgia, came over. Congratulations. He's a Florida kid. Not really moved. Didn't do much in 2023, but I think maybe 6 receptions, 100 yards, not much. Denylon Morissette, for me, I'm not a big Denylon Morissette guy. I remember when he played at, where did he play? Brookwood, maybe, in high school. He's a Georgia kid, by the way, so I know him really well. Thought he played at Brookwood and was with Dylan Lonergan. And then his senior year, he transferred to North Cobb to play with Singleton, right? A good quarterback who's at Arkansas right now. I think he's just a hired gun. He might have went to 4 different high schools in 4 years. He's just constantly moving. I believe he had a DUI or reckless driving charge. Leaving Georgia sounds about right. I'm very underwhelmed by Morissette. I don't think he's a student athlete. That's real. I don't think he's a student athlete, and I don't think he brings much to your locker room. I don't like it. I understand. People think he's talented. I've never seen him really dominate on tape, even in high school. He wasn't that great. North Cobb lost in the playoffs pretty early on. It was really disappointing every single time he played. And there was another receiver on that team. It just, not good. Speaking of not good, usually when you're not good, you go to Division III coming out of high school. Well, that's what Jair Ojada did. Jairi Ojada. He went to Division III. I forget the school. I had to go find tape, turn it on. The kid's 6'4", 260. Yeah, he's NFL ready, bro. He's NFL ready. You know they lost Nick Scorton? This guy can sack a quarterback. Period. 8.5, 9 sacks, something like that last year. That dude is a pro. Love him. Hidden gem. Hidden gem from Division III. No one's going to talk about it. What was the school? I don't want to be wrong. Franklin. There it is. Franklin College. So amazing, man. Shout out to Prudue recruiting the hell out of Indiana and finding this gem right here. This kid is it. I don't know if he's going to start, but he's going to get sacks, and you're going to know about him. Joshua Sales, I believe he's a depth piece. Young kid. Young enough, but he's not a starter. Nyland Green, penciled in as a starter. Again, former 5-star wide receiver or corner out of Georgia. Okay, he's good, but he's immediately starting. Here's Stu Smith. I want to make this very clear. On 3, you don't know what you're doing. On 3 has Stu Smith. You come down here, Sterling Smith. Oh, Rico, are they twins? They got different heights and weights. All this shit. This guy's 6'1", 198. This guy's 6 foot, 180. They are not twins. It's the same dude. His name is Sterling Smith. He goes by Stu. And he's pretty damn good. He played and contributed at Holy Cross. He can do the damn thing. By the way, his high school teammate was that wide receiver I was talking about earlier. Okay. Cam Brown. Known goods. Cam Brown played 2 years at Texas A&M, transferred to UCLA, been there 3 years. Cam Brown has over maybe 60 receptions. He can play football. He's a slot receiver. They need receivers. They need better receivers. They lost all, I showed you, they lost Deion Burks. They lost Sheffield. They need receivers all day long. They got one. Okay. Running back, Reggie Love III. Reggie Love was the starting running back at Illinois last year. He finally earned his way to get there. Unfortunately for him, when he got injured, some kid named Fagan who looks like, I don't know, Derrick Henry, like this big monstrous running back who played small school football in high school in Illinois, showed up and started taking over the running back room. And Reggie Love's like, yo, I'm going to go with my old coach. I'm going to go with my old coaches, I should say. He trusts the Purdue coaching staff. If you don't know, the Purdue coaching staff came from Illinois. So they're coming over. Ryan Walters, former defensive coordinator of the year from Illinois, now the head coach, finding his parts. I want to tell you, Purdue reminds me a lot of Colorado, right? Reminds me a lot of Syracuse. These teams that are rebuilding and trying to find the right players in the transfer portal, and they have a ton of transfers, and they're improving, but there's such a gap in their ability. And now Reggie Love comes in, teams up with Maccabee. It'll be pretty good. The 1-2 punch will be real at running back. CJ Madden, a young, undersized edge rusher out of Cedar Grove, which is a perennial power in Georgia. Shout out to him, 3A Cedar Grove. They are back-to-back state champ. No, they were supposed to win the state title. They got robbed. I just want to make that very clear. They got robbed. That's the 1 yard that was short from the end zone. Whole nother story. This name is Shittasilla. I don't know how to say his name, bro. He's been at Boston College for 5 years, and I want to tell you, he's never been very productive, but you've been in a weight program for 5 years at a college, so maybe he can contribute. He's in the rotation. That's just a good body to get. Speaking of good body to get, Corey Stewart. Corey Stewart is a day one starter for Purdue. This was first-team All-MAC. I believe he started 36 games in a row. 28 games in a row, something like that, something crazy like that. He's been starting an insane amount of games in a row, and he's an immediate starter for Purdue. In their spring game, he was the starting right tackle, I think. Right tackle. He's the starter. Jamaris Dinkins, just a big body to put in the middle, coming over from Kentucky. Yes, he's part of the rotation. That'll work out. DJ Wingfield actually started in the spring game. I believe he's just depth. He won't be the starter. The actual starter was injured for the spring game, but DJ Wingfield was the starter during the spring game. Not bad. Not bad to get a transfer come in and do it. Joey Tanona, this guy medically retired while at Notre Dame. He was a 4-star coming out of high school. Got in a car accident, medically retired, quit football, and then they talked him into coming back and playing football. So he's doing it. I want to say somebody out here is his high school teammate, Zionsville. He knows somebody on the team. I don't remember who it was, but yeah, Joey is just one of those guys coming over trying to restart his football career. And I hope it works out. But right now, I think he's just depth. He might be 2 years away from starting. I feel like, and I want to say this, and I don't mean to be rude, but I feel like Purdue is a year away from being good, because they were competitive in some of their losses. They scored points, but they're a year away from being good, and unfortunately for them, they won't have Hudson Card by then. So they're going to need to find another quarterback. I think this is Hudson Card's final year of eligibility. So next year, Prudue might be really good. They're actually finding answers. Okay, now who do they lose? They lost TJ Sheffield, like I said, their second leading receiver. He's pretty damn good. He's going to UConn. They lost a couple of role players, depth guys, nothing really too big. Then you lose a running back like Roman, who's actually a pretty good sized kid and young. The future was bright. He's gone. Nick Scorton, your team's leading sacker, going to A&M, gone. Dylan Downing, recognizing he's the third running back, not going to make it, so he goes to Miami of Ohio. And I want to remind you guys, when Dylan Downing goes to Miami of Ohio, watch him rush for a significant amount of yards in Miami of Ohio if he earns the starting job and things. And then everybody's going to go, oh my God, that's the greatest running back ever. Kind of like Rashad Amos. It's you were third string for a reason. There's some studs in front of you. It's just part of the process. That's what happens when you're at a quality program. Garrett Miller going to A&M. What can you do, right? You see, and I told you he's gone, not worth talking about, going to South Florida. Congratulations. I remember Dominic Moon leaving to Western Michigan, going to the MAC. It's okay. They found answers. O.C. Brothers leaving. He was contributing, but it is what it is. You see the number of players they lost. Deion Burke's their best player. The number of players they lost is intense. They've lost a lot. What that means is they still have a chance to add players. They still have scholarships available. So there's a lot of players in the transfer portal that can contribute to their depth. I don't think they need to find more starters, per se, but their depth can be shored up. So looking at it, I'm very surprised about some of these receivers getting straight into the starting lineup. Guys like C.J. Smith. I think Sawinski's going to play more than people realize. Cam Brown's here. He's going to play more than people realize. But you see Jamal Edrin here. Jamal Edrin, it's unfortunate. He tore his ACL last year before the season started. This is an FAU transfer. He looks like a Sunday player to me. I really like Jamal Edrin. So if he can just somehow, he didn't play in the spring game, if he can somehow recover and be ready to go. He's been in the system for over a year now. He knows the playbook. I hope he's on the road to recovery. I'm pulling for that young man all day long. Like I told you, Corey Stewart starting from day one. Everybody else who was joining looks like depth, which is fine on the offensive line. Everybody else starting, they're all returning and coming back, and say there's no surprises here. Hudson Card, complete stud. Marcos Davila. Marcos Davila played at, I want to say, Midland High School in Texas. I did a film review on him. I did a high school film review on him. He's a friend of the channel. I think he's a good player. I hope he never sees the field. I hope Hudson Card's on the field the whole time for the sake of the team. Elijah Jackson's not a bad running back, but these are your stars. The 1-2 punch is real. Devin Maccabee, third-year starting running back, and Reggie Love coming over from Illinois being a starting running back. These guys know what they're doing. The beast. I already told you about Emba. Joe Anderson starting this year. Congratulations. Very senior Latin. Studs. Nobody else really sticks out to me. Like I told you, big depth, and Dinkins coming over from Kentucky, but he's just depth. Helt, tape. Turn on the tape on Will Helt. That's the best. I mean, C.J. Madden came over because he thought he was going to be. No. Will Helt is better than a Georgia transfer. You're a 4 or 5-star Georgia transfer, you're not Will Helt, man. That dude's real. They got to find a way to get them both on the field, if you ask me, but Will Helt will be on the field. Your team's leading sacker in Jenkins, complete stud. Told you Silla's been playing football for a long time. I believe my eyes when I tell you Ojada's going to be playing on this team. Ojada's going to be on the field playing. Okay. Nyland Green shows up and instantly becomes a starter. That concerns me. That tells me your corners aren't that great. Same with Kendrick Breedlove. Corners aren't that great. Second year of Markevius Brown being there from Ole Miss. This is a very experienced corner, or defensive back, if you will. And Dylan Thieneman, probably one of the best safeties in America, right behind Caleb Downs and Starks at Georgia. I would have Thieneman third. I don't know what their PFF grades are, but I guarantee you, if you look them up, Thieneman's gonna be third. I probably guarantee it. Give me Caleb Downs, Malachi Starks, and then Dylan Thieneman as the third best safety in America. I don't care what you say. I don't care what NFL scouts say. I don't care what talking heads say. I know what the fuck I'm talking about. That is a pro, and I've been talking about it for a year, and I won't get off it. You can't get me off it. He's that good on tape. So how many games are they going to win? Well, I have them beating Indiana State to start the season, obviously. They have 2 weeks to prepare for Notre Dame. They don't match up well with Notre Dame. Notre Dame has a lot of depth in certain position groups. Notre Dame looks the part. I don't like Notre Dame. I don't think Notre Dame's the fifth best team in America. I think it's absurd, but Notre Dame's going to beat them. I think they can beat Oregon State. Oregon State's lost their quarterback, lost a lot of depth, lost their offensive line. They just lost their running back and Damian Martinez. They obviously lost their head coach and a bunch of other offensive coordinator, running backs coach, things like that. So my biggest issue with Oregon State is Jam Griffin going to carry this team? If he is, then more power to him. And I love the quarterbacks they brought in the transfer portal, but I think Hudson Card's better, right? So top to bottom, it looks like a very competitive game. Having that game right after Notre Dame is problematic. You might even have some guys hurt. I'm being real. You might have some guys hurt. Nebraska, I feel Nebraska's improving and getting better, and Nebraska blew them out last year. So there's levels to this. At Wisconsin, I don't see them beating Wisconsin on the road. I see them losing again. I think they're going to beat Illinois. I think Illinois is absolutely terrible, guys. I think Illinois is atrocious. I called this once they signed their coach, the fat dude, Brett Bielema. Once they signed him to their big contract and then Ryan Walters left, I said, God, you paid the wrong guy. It was Ryan Walters. That was why Illinois was so good. And Illinois had first-round draft picks and second-round draft picks and third-round draft picks 2 years ago. That was their year to win 11 games, and all they won was 8. They're not good, and the cupboard's bare. I think that Purdue can beat them. Purdue's not beating Oregon. They have a chance to beat Northwestern, but it doesn't look good. Northwestern just lost their quarterback, though, to the transfer portal, but it still doesn't look good. Northwestern looks like a complete, like a blue-collar team that'll hit you in the mouth. And I don't think some of the Purdue defenders don't feel that way to me. And especially their offensive line is Frankenstein. Okay, not beating Ohio State, not beating Penn State. I don't think you're beating Michigan State after going back-to-back weeks getting blown out like this. I don't think you're beating Michigan State. But it'll be close. At Indiana, I have Indiana just out of the stratosphere with what they did in the transfer portal. So, for me, win 1, 2, 3, and I don't see a fourth one. And if you do get a fourth one, I don't see a fifth one. So I really don't like the over on their win total. I like the under, and if you see how heavy it is, it's minus 178. What I will say is this. The improvements by this team warrant speculation. They were competitive in games, and it's their second year under Ryan Walters. They have a chance with Hudson Card to really be competitive and impress us. I just don't trust the receiving core. I see a lot of holes in the receiving core right now. I see a lot of holes on the offensive line. Tight end is a question mark. Defensive backs, I don't like their starting corners. I think you can beat them, but everything else is pretty good. And when you come across teams, you have to pick a winner and a loser. And being pretty good probably doesn't get you there. I still think they're under 4.5 wins. But this is probably one bet I wouldn't make. It's a lean. I wouldn't make this bet. If I had to bet on all these over and unders, you guys see the chart here in front of me, I wouldn't waste the unit on it. I personally wouldn't. It just feels like there's a chance Purdue could be so volatile and so good. There is. There's a chance Hudson Card could shock the world. They can run the ball really good. I mean, it's just, no, there's not. I don't think they're winning 4 games. I don't think they're winning 5 games. Don't see it. I think Indiana, Michigan State, they all have a much greater trajectory and improvement in the offseason. So there's my recap on Purdue. They do have certain players, though, that really intrigue me. They're kind of a question mark, and it's one of those things where if I don't get a warm and fuzzy about how great they're going to be, I'm off it. And I'm kind of off Purdue. I have them losing a significant number of games, even if they beat Illinois, even if they beat Oregon State. I just see Indiana State as the only gimme, and the rest is all pretty tough. Your friends don't know, but Rico knows. Good luck, y'all.